This February, Aldous Hodge returns as Alex Cross, your favorite detective on television, for Season 2 of the hit show Cross, premiering February 11th exclusively on Prime Video. Fresh off his capture of the infamous serial killer The Fanboy, Cross teams up with the FBI to hunt down a vigilante serial killer targeting corrupt billionaires. As the case unfolds, Cross navigates a moral crossroads where the lines between justice and vengeance are blurred. Watch Season 2 of Cross, now streaming only on Prime Video.
He's Kenny Mayne, the funny guy from ESPN.
Formerly. He's Cooper Manning, the more intelligent and handsome of the Manning brothers.
And he's Brian Baumgartner. But to me, he'll always be Kevin from The Office.
Yeah, you and everybody else. Together, we're the hosts of the new comedy golf podcast, We Need a Fourth.
From Smartless Media and SiriusXM.
It's like a cold beer after a round. You hear the strangest and most bizarre golf stories from our friends, athletes, celebrities, and comedians.
It's all about how much we love golf and how much we hate golf. New episodes are out every week. Listen now and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Could just be anywhere, just on a couch. Doesn't matter.
For my family, I'm always at my best. That's why I also want the best in my kitchen. And that means only Eggland's Best Eggs. They're always so fresh tasting and delicious. With 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. So why give your family less when they can have the best? Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. For added convenience, look for our hard-cooked peeled eggs.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, her kidnapping shocked her community. How she survived in captivity stunned the world. We'll discuss Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart from Netflix. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and the love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us, private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, all the way from Valencia, Spain, author of the City Trilogy, host of Rip Current, More Like Ancient Phalians, and the podcast soon to be a major motion picture, Strange Arrivals. It's Toby Ball. ¿Qué pasa, Toby?
Hey, buenas, Rebecca.
So, Kevin, this is Thursday's program.
Yes.
What is coming up on Monday's show?
Yeah, Monday we're talking about the documentary. You can see it now on Netflix. It's called Secret Mall Apartment.
I cannot wait to watch this. Everyone's talking about it. I'm so
Heard good
excited.
things.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Toby, speaking of secret mall apartments, have you found a place to live in Spain yet? Yes or no?
Well, I mean, we're living in a place, but it's temporary. No, we haven't found an apartment. We were looking around, and then we took a break and just waiting to get our visa approved, and then
Sounds like you should check out a mall. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some malls here.
Valencia
They may
mall?
have secret apartments. Who knows?
You never know if a mall is going to have a secret apartment.
That's why it's secret.
That's right. Remember when we did our live show in a mall?
That's true.
Yeah, there's a bunch of secret shit in that mall.
We could have lived in that mall. There was a lot of vacant spaces there.
Yep.
And still are to this day.
Yes.
A lot of vacant spaces.
We
in
could
that
not
mall.
be living in the mall near where Toby used to live because it is about to be taken down.
I heard about that.
Really?
Fox Run Mall.
Yeah, the Fox Run Mall is no more.
It should have happened,
Really?
10 years ago or something. There hasn't been much going on there recently.
Well, where will kids get their ears pierced then in Portsmouth if they can't go
Get
to
it done on the
Claire's?
streets, Kevin.
Down the
Get it done on the
street,
Yeah,
streets.
that's right. Well, maybe that guy who was making the Domino's pizza can go there.
Yeah.
Go to an ear piercing.
You want the
business.
battery in your watch changed? You're going to have to do it in a back alley now.
You want your iPhone screen replaced?
That's right.
Where are you going to go? Where are you
Yeah.
going to go?
I want a whole kiosk of troll dolls.
Where are you going to get your Orange Julius?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Spencer's Gifts is probably going to be the biggest loss.
Yeah.
Assuming that was still open. I don't know. I haven't been to that mall in
Big
so
Black
long.
Light is not happy about that.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to a mall relatively recently. I had to make a stop to make some phone calls on the way back from doing something far away, and I had to stop and do some work at the what's it called in Salem called the mall at
Rockingham
Rockingham
Mall,
Park.
Yeah.
Yes, That mall is hopping. I'm like, where are all these people at all the other malls? That mall is packed full of people at like 2:00 on a Tuesday. It was so weird.
Well, if you want to go to a mall, there's few of them. So
there's one. I know
you
of
gotta
one.
travel.
That and the Burlington Mall are the two that I know of that are actually, and the Holyoke Mall.
Yeah.
Still live and kicking.
That's right, folks. If you watch Paul Blart Mall Cop, that's the Burlington Mall.
That's right.
Where they film that.
Right.
You could go to that Rainforest Cafe.
I loved that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. My son just went to the Cheesecake Factory. That's in one of those malls.
Jesus.
Yeah, they have a Cheesecake Factory
That's still
there.
around?
I think that they do.
It's a thing.
Yes. Overpriced.
Late teens, early 20-somethings.
Really?
Yeah.
They like the Cheesecake Factory now.
Apparently so. Because when I follow them on the Family Stalker app, I see them at the Cheesecake Factory. And there they are again at the Cheesecake Factory.
Next up, Olive Garden.
Oh, God.
All right, Kevin, should we talk about the thing we're supposed to be talking about in this podcast?
Let's do that.
All right, let's do that. Leading off.
I remember a man's voice. I have a knife at your neck. Don't make a sound. Get up and come with me. I was terrified. Was he going to hurt me? Was he going to kill me?
The brazen kidnapping of 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart from her bedroom captivated the nation. And when their main suspect died in custody, police feared they'd never learn her fate. But Elizabeth was still alive, being held in the woods and facing daily abuse at the hands of her captors.
Emmanuel took me inside the tent, pulled out his knife. If anyone comes into this camp, this is the knife I'm going to use to kill them, and it'll be your fault.
Though investigators thought of it as a cold case, the Smart family continued their search. And a clue from Elizabeth's younger sister about the kidnapper's identity led to her dramatic rescue and emotional family reunion.
And I said, Elizabeth, is it really you? And then she goes, yes, Dad.
In the Netflix documentary film, Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart, we hear from Elizabeth herself about her 9-month ordeal, as well as from loved ones and investigators who worked to bring her home. She explains how she survived in captivity, the physical and psychological abuse she suffered, and why she passed on earlier chances to escape. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Additional note, I am the host of Netflix's You Can't Make This Up podcast, and I interviewed the directors of Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart, but that has not influenced my review. So, Laura, there's one big thing in this documentary that I want to start with you on, and that is that Elizabeth had this younger sister who was 9 years old when Elizabeth was taken out of the bedroom that they shared.
Right.
And everybody was leaning on this young girl to help solve the kidnapping and pressuring her and putting all this stuff on her. She was 9. And then later, she actually did help out. But can you just talk about her role?
That's one of the parts of this story that I always find so interesting. So her sister, Mary Catherine, is trying to figure out what happened. And she's 9. Like, what is she going to say? And we often talk about children and eyewitness testimony and children's memories. And so I think you're going into this thinking, like, what is a 9-year-old going to tell us?
The police officers didn't want me talking to anyone because it would possibly influence my memory. So I was on my own lonely island, if you will, wanting to know, trying to sneak and hear tidbits of things that happened, but people shot of ways.
I think that was the attitude that the police had when that 9-year-old did actually tell them something and says it was Emmanuel. And she's clear, it was Emmanuel. And he's this homeless guy that we met. And then he came to our house and he did this work. And then the sketch is released. And it was after that sketch that she helped put together that people start to recognize this guy who had taken her sister. It was interesting because you're like, what are the chances that a kid is going to produce an artist sketch that is actually the person that took your sister from your house, and it's actually going to lead to that? Like, we hear so many times where adults' memory isn't reliable. So I think that was really one of the parts of this that I think is super interesting. I would have liked to hear a little bit more about, like, and I know this wasn't that type of documentary, but I was curious just about sort of that mechanics and psychology of somebody that age being able to recall something like that and what made that possible in this situation as opposed to other situations where you're not getting credible information to follow up on from somebody that age.
Yeah. I have always personally been fascinated by the Smart family because, well, they're Mormon. That's obviously clear throughout this documentary and many other pieces of media about them. And I believe Elizabeth went on mission after she came back and all that stuff. And we actually have a friend who was friends with Elizabeth as a child before she was taken. But the family is interesting. They had a lot of money. The father would hire all of these like people who needed stuff, people who were actually like in need. He hired the perpetrator. He hired this other suspect, Richard Reese. He gave him a car. And then the kids all have these like special talents, playing instruments and so forth. They're just like a really interesting and complicated family. And the way religion plays into this, as Elizabeth described it, to me is one of the more interesting things in the documentary because she talks about her very conservative upbringing and how that didn't prepare her to understand a lot of what was happening to her. It made for her feel as if her family might not want her back, and she kind of believed it. So I think that stuff is super interesting. But maybe the most interesting family member of all in the Smart family, Toby, is her Uncle Tom. He's in the documentary, and he also gave some interesting sound bites at the time of her kidnapping. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's like at best just like an odd dude. I'm at a loss to explain him, quite honestly. But, when she's gone, he says it's a wonderful story in a lot of ways. And I think maybe he said it's like a celebration of Elizabeth. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
We all have issues. Anybody who's we've been ripped apart to the core, and we understand that everybody has issues. This is a wonderful story in a lot of ways because it's about, foremost, a beautiful little angelic girl.
Then there's that absolutely horrible television interview that he does that he just completely could not look worse than he did. And it's very cringy, especially since that he's absolutely innocent of anything. And I guess he's overtired, didn't get enough sleep or whatever.
Toby, do you mean the interview where he says, I think the kidnapper is probably a nice person?
Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
I just don't know. I don't think I've ever met anybody whose reactions would be what this guy's reactions are to thing. It's like rose-colored glasses, but to the point of just absurdity, where it's like, oh, no, it's all good, man. It's a great story. I think the guy's probably pretty cool. But so I just, it's weird. Like to me, I didn't find this documentary very interesting at all. And the parts that were interesting seemed like they were kind of on the periphery, like this, which is like, what is this guy's deal? Like, I don't have any kind of frame of reference for it or any kind of explanation for it. And they certainly don't say anything other than, I think they say he was kind of troubled or whatever. And they were a little bit worried about him being in the spotlight. And I think with good reason. I mean, not to be mean to the guy, but I don't think he understood the way his sort of outlook on all of this was going to be seen by basically everybody. So yeah, odd guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the reason is, you pointed it out, is that he's sleep deprived, right? And they're also sort of trying to maintain positive thoughts when the worst possible outcome could be here. But his ramblings, were super unfortunate. And like in a different case, could have placed him in jail, right? I mean, some investigator could have like super locked on to him and just rode those weird things that he's saying right to an indictment. And, even later too, like one of the reasons why they home in on Richard Reese, in addition to not wanting to tell them where he took the Jeep.
His beef with Ed,
like all those sort of weird things, you can get why they're a red herring, right? It seems like if you were an investigator, you too would draw this conclusion. But I mean, this is the danger with demeanor evidence, right? I mean, here's a guy just like, he's not thinking, he's just trying to like stay positive. Obviously, you don't want to antagonize a kidnapper if you think that they're watching this with a knife to somebody's throat. I mean, we've seen other stories like this in the news recently. You want to stay positive, and then that just comes out in the weirdest way. And it's like if I hadn't seen it, I would have been like, nah, he didn't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure did.
Yeah, I think that some of this relates again to the fact that this is like a Mormon community. I
Mhm.
really do. I think that there's like a desire for positivity, a desire to
For forgiveness, maybe,
all that,
where- yeah.
you know, whether it's real, performative, or whatever. In this family's case, it seems genuine, and I think about this a lot. And you know, I've been pondering this thought that the abductor guy was able to walk around with two women where he basically had safety pin napkins over their faces, right? And because you're in this deeply religious community, when he says their faces need to be covered, whatever, everyone's like, oh, okay. I think the same thing might happen in a big city where there's a lot of diversity, but I think there are some communities where someone might say, no, I need to see, which is also not a good thing in many ways, because you don't want to trample on somebody's freedom to cover their face if they'd like to.
Take that headscarf off.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. But at the same time, I do think there's a community Pollyanna optimism at play here that kind of infused the case. And I think that when we watched these things on national TV, I think that America didn't get it. I think it didn't really translate. It's sort of like in the Jean Benet case, the parents talking about her love for doing beauty pageant stuff. Like it just didn't translate because most people don't live in that world and do that stuff, and they're not sort of part of that culture. So that's sort of how I read it. And then I'm really glad Tom is in it now because he's still awkward. And you can kind of see like, that's just how the dude is. Dude's sort of awkward. And maybe the lesson here is if you have a kidnapped or missing family member, when you go out as a group to give a press conference, maybe ask some of the people to stay home. That's maybe what I would do. So, Laura, Elizabeth Smart has told this story many times before. She wrote a book. I heard an hour-long interview with her on Fresh Air when the book came out and lots of other places.
Right.
I think that folks make documentaries for platforms like Netflix for people who wouldn't have heard or seen or read those things. But you have your typical question here, and I would like you to address that. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, and I think that's where I was coming from with this is, as I always say, why now? This isn't the first time Elizabeth Smart has told her story. She's done a TED Talk. She's got a book. She's got a foundation. She has come out to talk about what happened. So I was like, okay, why are they doing this now? And I'm like, okay, you know what? It's been a lot of years. There are probably younger people who don't know the story, who didn't watch the news when this happened like we did, who aren't familiar with the case. And here is a bite-sized way to tell this story. And I think it's a way to bring this out to people who maybe didn't know about it, and maybe kind of also a different sort of trend of the type of true crime stories that we're seeing. You know, we're seeing a story here where we're focusing on somebody who's got resilience, who's come out the other side. It's very victim-centric, like survival, and these people have been convicted. It's not a wrongful conviction. It's not a cold case. It's a case with an ending where you see somebody who's been through incredible trauma, who has managed to go on to live their life. And I think there is a certain segment of the true crime viewership who wants that kind of story more than that cold case, where they're focusing on advocacy rather than just the gruesome details. Although we do hear some of the gruesome details here.
Yep.
Of the rape scene, which was particularly troubling.
So, Laura, do you think maybe she's just like the reason now is because she's in it for the money?
No.
Okay, well, let me tell you about Patreon. If you go to...
Good transition, Kevin.
Yeah.
I did wonder that.
Very smooth.
But I wasn't going to say that.
No, but I will. We're in it for the money.
Oh, we are.
At least as much as we need to keep this going.
We don't want to pay money to make this podcast.
We don't want to pay money to make this podcast. We want to be able to do it for a long, long time. And you can help by sustaining us with a monthly membership at Patreon. Go to patreon.com/partisan crime media. That's just one of the ways you can do that. Your sponsorship keeps us going, and you get all sorts of exclusive content. You can get up to 20 plus episodes a month.
Wow.
Different things, including the Crime Writers on After Show, Married with Podcast, Something's Off, Leave It to Bricker, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. The next book that Toby is talking about is The Lumumba Plot, and you can find all of Toby's Deep Dive books at our Amazon storefront. We have this storefront where you just go, like when you're doing your regular shopping, you go to Amazon.com, crime writers on. You can still do all of your shopping. You get to look at some of our favorite things. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Well, I may have recommended a version of this before, but I'm going to recommend a new version, and I will put the link to it on our storefront. It is the dog or cat water fountain that we bought. The new one that we have is so great. The battery lasts forever. It's cordless. It's wireless. It triggers when they walk by. And man, they drink so much more water than they used to, don't they?
Yeah, because instead of the water being still, it kind of bubbles it a little
it's
bit.
Fresh and cold.
Yeah,
they love it.
Like they're at a real stream in the mountains.
Yes,
yeah.
they're at a river.
Like at a river.
Getting beaver fever in the woods.
Getting what fever?
Beaver fever.
What is beaver fever?
You never heard of beaver fever?
I have, but it's like not in that
I've heard of
context.
a different kind of beaver fever.
No,
Sounds like
it's
a porno title.
No,
Isn't that in Hustler?
It's a thing you can get from drinking contaminated stream water.
Yeah, I bet. And Toby, what are your listener-inspired Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations?
We're going to start off with the Connie White Pillar Candle set of 6 3-inch by 3-inch unscented pillar candles, bulk 30 hours long burning candles, smokeless and dripless, all one word, large round candle for we.
For we?
Okay.
I guess. That's what it says. It's probably the beginning of something else, but I don't know.
For Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Most likely. If you spell Wisconsin with an E, then you'd be correct.
For Weehawken.
Weehawken.
Yeah.
Candles are smokeless?
There are some candles that are smokeless.
Smokeless and
okay.
dripless, which
Dripless.
doesn't really sound like a candle, but whatever.
No one wants a drippy, smoky candle.
It's made of asbestos, and it's awesome. Like the snow when they were filming Wizard of Oz. Asbestos all the
It
way.
was asbestos?
Oh, okay.
Nice. Well, at least it didn't catch on fire. All right, the second one is DS Juggling 3-inch Fushigi Magic Gravity Ball, 75 millimeter floating illusion contact juggling ball for stage performance, packed in protective bag.
Nice.
Not sure what that is.
I think it's like one of the magicians does the thing where it's a trick. They hold their hands like this, and the ball seems to like be in their hands, and but it's floating in the air.
Are you telling us how the trick works, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Amazon, I gave it away.
We got a picture, an incredible photo from one of our listeners, Bethany Na, whose son is the one that was. Remember the Nerf gun safe was procured for?
Oh yeah.
And he's all kitted out in camo and like a hat and like all this stuff and holding his Nerf gun. Super cute.
Don't mess with that kid.
Don't mess with him.
Yeah. So you can get all that stuff when you shop us first at amazon.com/shop/crime writers on. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
All right, Kevin, before we end our business section.
Yes.
Who is our Patreon patron saint of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are all the way from Norway, Kina Yachten and Aaron Nix.
We have a
Bless you.
Norwegian Patreon patron saint?
Yes, we have many Scandinavian listeners, and I know that Kina is from Norway because she's paying in kroner.
Oh, I want to go to Norway so badly.
Mm-hmm.
Every time there's like a Norway media item on, like on Succession when they went to Norway, or that show we watched with the Princess of Norway who married that shaman guy, I just like pause and I'm like, look at that, look at that, look at that. Like I really, really, really want to go there.
That's right. So Patreon will take US dollars, Canadian dollars, British pound,
all of it,
euro,
all of it,
kroner,
all of it.
Kugarats. Do they even still use Kugarats?
I don't know what a Kugarat is.
How about gold doubloons? Do we have any gold doubloons?
Oh, I would take that.
You would take that? Sure. Arg.
All right, Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
Let's go ahead and fade that music out right now.
Hey, everybody. Ted Danson here to tell you about my podcast with my longtime friend and sometimes co-host Woody Harrelson. It's called Where Everybody Knows Your Name, and we're back for another season. I'm so excited to be joined this season by friends like John Mulaney, David Spade, Sarah Silverman, Ed Helms, and many more. You don't want to miss it. Listen to Where Everybody Knows Your Name with me, Ted Danson, and Woody Harrelson sometimes, wherever you get your podcasts.
Kevin?
Yes?
Who are we sponsored by this time?
We're sponsored by Quince.
Oh, my favorite.
Quince is all about elevated essentials that feel effortless, designed for layering and mixing. Each piece helps build a timeless wardrobe made to last. Rebecca, have you ever purchased anything from Quince?
Well, Kevin.
All right, hold on. Let's just set the scene. I actually have here a bag. Says Quince on the outside. This is your latest purchase. Let's do an unbagging.
It was just delivered today.
Mm-hmm.
And you made me wait.
I know.
All right, let's see what I got here.
Let's show me. Now, you know what this is. I don't.
Okay.
Oh, that's a nice sweater.
It is a luxe baby cashmere cardigan, cable knit.
Oh, this feels nice. Cable knit. What's the color?
I think this is the oatmeal. It's a very icy. It's so beautiful. This was one of my aspirational sweaters, and then I saw it at Quince, and I was like, oh my God.
And you got it.
I did.
Yeah, okay. So Rebecca's single-handedly keeping everybody at Quince employed.
Thanks.
And you can help them too by refreshing your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too.
Yay!
That's QUINCE.com/crime. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime.
Cashmere. Crime.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
So, Kevin, at the beginning of the episode, we talked about Elizabeth Smart's little sister, right? And all the pressure that was put on her. But this family, unlike a lot of families who get involved and end up mucking things up or get involved and end up just being frustrated, they actually solved her case somewhat, right?
Yes, a lot of times, like when we see these, documentaries or podcasts, like, oh, we want to put the family first. We want it to be family-centric. And they always kind of under-deliver on that. I think it's, one of the tropes of making these, which is like you have the professional self-loathing of doing a true crime thing. So you're like, oh, it's all about family or whatever. I feel like this is one of the few ones that sort of gives the family their due, and not just from being like stoic and supportive, because they were not pedestrians in this. They actually came up with stuff that moved this case along, especially when the cops kind of backed off. Again, you can understand why the police thought they had their man, but the family just believed their 9-year-old daughter that she came up with a good clue. If it weren't for them, that police sketch would not have gone public. And, they wouldn't have been looking for Emmanuel when, he returned to Salt Lake City. The story about how Elizabeth Smart convinced them to go back, that's also very interesting.
Pretty wild.
But as far as like the family, their role, it wasn't just sort of like keeping the home fires burning. They did things that advanced the investigation.
So, Toby, we have interviews with family members in this. They're like in a cabin, which is interesting. But what we don't get, and you made a note of this, is, we know she was returned. We know that she came home, but we don't hear a lot about what happened next in this documentary.
No. Look, I mean, I think the big, and correct me if I'm wrong, was there much in this documentary that you didn't already know? Was there anything that you were like, oh shit, that's weird? Because I hardly know anything about the case. There was nothing in there that surprised me other than the Salt Lake City Underground, which sounds awesome.
Yeah? I was going to ask if you knew about that.
It just kind of felt to me, and like Laura says, and I think she's half right, why now? My question is just why? Because it doesn't feel like you make this thing, but there wasn't anything new. There wasn't anything to say.
No.
Like, it couldn't have been easy for Elizabeth to reintegrate into her family, given the way that she was raised and then what she had happened to her. Like, there must have been a huge emotional and psychological thing coming back to this family that, after experiencing this thing that you had no context for in your upbringing, and then trying to get back into some kind of normalcy with them. I mean, it must have been like going to a different horrible planet or something. So I just kind of felt like through this whole thing, it was really frustrating, because it's like, do you have anything new, or do you have anything to say about this story? Because otherwise, you're just hoping that people haven't really heard or know much about it, or are going to watch this thing.
Right.
And I kept waiting for them to have one or the other. Like, is there some kind of conclusion we can draw? Is there anything, any angle that you have? And there wasn't. It was just this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And, you get the voices of the people who'd happened to, and I guess that's something. But again, like you guys were saying before, it's not like they've been shrinking violets in the past. I mean, that stuff is out there. So anyway, I felt the whole thing was pretty frustrating. And that was one of the things I was wondering if they would get to, since they had all these family members and Elizabeth there. Is like, what was it like coming back and trying to live in this perfect family again?
Well, they're not a perfect family anymore. I mean, the father, Ed, came out as gay a few years ago, and he and her mom are divorced now. I'm not saying that makes you an imperfect family, but I'm just saying that, like...
But that's the impression you get, right?
Yeah.
Like the mom's just not in it.
They're very careful with their image. I actually have always had a question, and I don't think I'm alone in having this question, but we have heard nothing about her immediate reintegration after she came back. I haven't read her book, but I've heard her talking about her book. Maybe it's in there. I have always wondered whether it's possible that she was pregnant when she got back.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, she was systemically raped for 9 months. I mean, it's like what? With unprotected sex, it's like a 25% chance every single time it happens. And so I've always found myself wondering if that is the reason why the family has been so private about her reintegration into their family. That's obviously, it's not speculation. I'm not saying she was. It's a question that I've had, because if she didn't get pregnant during that 9-month span, it's actually kind of miraculous. Because she was raped, she was underage, but she was also very likely
she was raped frequently. So
yeah.
Different,
it's fair to ask.
Throughout the
it's
calendar,
fair to wonder about that, don't you think, Kevin?
It is. That's not an unfair question to ask. Yeah.
So, Laura, one of the things that Elizabeth Smart has really made an effort to do since her return to her family is speak very openly about what happened to her. Try to remove the shame around sexual assault. She also has, I think, a program around self-defense, because she was on an airplane once and she woke up and a man was touching her leg. And she had to defend herself. And she's like, women need to know about this. And can you fucking imagine being on a plane with Elizabeth Smart and picking that person? Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, what do you think about the fact that she is so transparent and open and graphic about what happened to her?
Yes, she gave a very detailed description of the first time that he raped her.
And then when he was finished, he got up and he kind of smiled like it wasn't a big deal to him. And he walked out of the tent. And I just was left on the ground. And I just remember like hurting so much.
If you had any doubt of how awful this was for this girl, and I don't think you do, but I mean, I think that description, as detailed and graphic and upsetting as it was to have in there, was probably necessary to really convey to people who didn't know about this case just the level of ongoing trauma that she sustained during this period. So I don't think it's for shock value. I think it's owning the story and what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you, Laura, I was a little surprised at how graphic she went, but she wanted to do that. I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons why she wanted to talk now, was to get in that. And I agree that it might be for some people triggering, because it goes a little deeper than most people will hear in these kinds of stories. But I think there is also a recurring theme, and we've touched on this earlier, about, involving Mormons, from, abducted in plain sight to evil influencer to keep sweet, thinks about being trusting to a fault, and sort of their naivete about sexual issues. I'm glad that she has a better perspective today and talks about that in a way that, sort of acknowledges, like, I didn't know this. This is the way I thought at the time, and doesn't feel that way now. Sort of has a healthy understanding of mentally, emotionally, where she was coming from when she went through that. But yeah, I mean, that's something. That was definitely part of this that, I hadn't heard before.
Doesn't it make you wonder how she's raising her kids? Because I'm very curious about that. Like, what is the conversation like in her house with her kids?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I guess it depends. Like, is she still involved in the church? And I don't know if
she could be involved in the church and be raising her kids differently than she was raised. There's no reason why she couldn't be.
Yeah, sure.
So, Toby, Richard Reese, we've mentioned him a couple of times. I personally don't blame the cops for thinking he did it. I mean, it seems like a lot of things pointed to him, He did have the car that Ed Smart had given him. He wouldn't say where it was. He did have a beef with the family. He did have access to the house, but he didn't help himself either, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit along the same lines as like false confessions. It's like, why don't people help themselves out in these situations? Like, so one of the things is that he won't talk about what he did with the car that night, like what he went and did. And he's just like, no, I'm not going to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, there's nothing that you did that's going to be as bad as child murder, right? Like, just fucking tell him and get yourself out of the frame for this, because it can't possibly be as bad. But this guy was just like, dug his heels in. He wasn't going to give him anything. And by doing that, made himself look guilty.
I'm not playing games. I'm not saying tell me why you did the kidnapping. I'm saying tell me what you know about it, what you've heard on the news, what you've seen in the press.
Somebody broke into the Smart's house.
Okay.
Took Elizabeth.
Okay.
Now I'm the number one suspect.
This is like one of those sort of peripheral things that I thought was kind of interesting. They don't really like try to make much sense of it. It's not that they necessarily needed to, but it was kind of weird just watching somebody act against their own interest in a situation in which the consequences for it are pretty big. Like it's, they thought he did it, and that was not going to work out very well for him if he wasn't going to be able to prove that it wasn't him.
Right.
And he's not a good guy. I mean, it's the other thing.
Right.
Like you take a look at his past history, and again, it indicates, like you were saying, it's like, this is not an unreasonable suspect.
Right. Didn't he like break into other houses and stuff? Was something like that?
Yeah. I mean, it was, yeah. And then they found stuff of the Smarts in his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just help yourself out, dude. But he wasn't going to do it. And then he died before he was cleared.
So one of the things I'm going to say in my review of the show is that this is clearly from Elizabeth Smart's perspective. At least I think that the filmmakers were very constrained by the story she told them, and they decided to respect that. And I think that in this case, it's maybe more appropriate than in other cases.
Can I just, because I think this is something we've talked about before. Like Kevin says, you either betray your subject or you betray your audience. Yeah. And in this case, didn't betray the subject. And
I don't think it's betraying the audience either, because what is more that you could do? It would be extra textual from the timeline of the story they told. You know what I mean? So if the timeline of the story that they told, it's true. Everything that they said happened, and it's from Elizabeth's perspective. If they then said, the filmmakers had that was just like, and then everything was awesome. I don't think they did that. I think there's just a blank there that they chose not to cover that period of time. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I guess I just feel as though things may have been omitted. And I don't know specifically what, but it is a neat little package in a story that had to have been more complicated. But I just thought it was interesting because, like, if that's the way it was, it is something that, in particular, Kevin has talked about a lot in the past, which is what is your responsibility to your subject? What's your responsibility to the audience? And if going into it, you're like, this is going to be her story, that's not made explicit. Like, they don't say that in the show, that is something that you're surmising, and I think correctly, but it does feel as though
it's presented more straight, and then it isn't, is what you're...
I guess so. I mean, I
less complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is...
I'll counter that with one thing. I think that to point out why it was complicated would also point out some really problematic stuff. Like, what's complicated is that she wasn't found sooner. She wasn't found sooner because she was unintentionally complicit in her own kidnapping. And she was complicit in her own kidnapping was because she didn't want her family to die, and she didn't want to die. So there's like stuff there that I think is addressed, but I think that to address it more could lead viewers to ask questions to themselves like, should she have done more? And I don't think those questions are fair. So that's where I land on it. For her, this is a very specific case of a specific person telling a specific story. If it were a different story with a different person, I'd probably have a very different perspective on it.
Okay. I don't necessarily disagree with you, and I don't
necessarily disagree with you either.
But it is it is kind of an interesting point, I think.
Adam Pally here.
And I'm John Gabris.
We're a couple actors and best friends who you may know as the hosts of the TV show 101 Places to Party Before You Die.
Now, we're bringing you a comedic look at health and wellness with our new show, Staying Alive.
We'll have guests like our friend, actor Jerry O'Connell.
Ketamine therapist, Dr. Stephen Radowitz.
Paul Scheer.
Ego Wodum.
Jillian Bell.
Dr. Doolittle. Staying Alive with John Gabris and Adam Pally is out right now.
Get them a week early and ad-free with SiriusXM Podcast Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
Why have I asked my electrician I found on Angie.com to bury my pet hamster? I was so moved by how carefully he buried my electrical wires, I knew I could trust him to bury my sweet nibbles after his untimely end.
This is very strange. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
A BetterHelp ad. February is full of flowers and lots of relationship talk. But whether you're single, married, or dating, just remember, you're right on time. Sometimes it feels like everyone has it all together in their love lives. But the truth is, we're all still figuring it out. Therapy can help. Get some outside perspective from a professional that can lead to new understanding and a lot less pressure on yourself. And remember, you're right on time. Visit BetterHelp.com for 10% off.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart on Netflix. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for this documentary?
I'm going to go thumbs sideways with this documentary. If you don't know anything about the case of Elizabeth Smart, there's nothing wrong with this. It's got access to Elizabeth, her family, the police that were involved, kind of gives you an overview of the case and her abduction and where she's at now in life. If you've followed this case at all, this is news that we've seen before. There wasn't really anything new in this that left me like, oh, geez, I'm so glad I watched this because I learned this new thing about this case that happened all these years ago. It was just kind of, the cinematography was very nice. There was a nice cabin in it. It was well done.
Horses.
But yeah, So for me, as somebody who had followed this case when it happened, there really wasn't any new information. It wasn't spun forward, but I don't think I was the target audience for this. Like if I was the target audience, I would want to know like, okay, what sort of institutional police failures in this investigation led to changes in the way that police work was done? What are some other takeaways from this? Where are the kidnappers now? What happened to them? Something to give new context to a case that a lot of us followed. So for me, I was just kind of like, it really wasn't, and I don't want to diminish what she went through, but it really wasn't that interesting because I already knew this story. So that is why I'm a thumbs sideways.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart.
Yeah, this is a tough one to me. I mean, I echo Laura in that it's definitely competently made and, they have almost everybody that you'd want to hear from and stuff. But I don't feel like I know very much about the case, but there was nothing in this that surprised me or I felt was new and important. I don't understand why you would spend all this time on a documentary about stuff that is really out there and just not either have some angle that you've got on it to make people think about it differently, even though the facts of the case are known, but just sort of contextualizing it differently or have some kind of theory or something you're trying to say. This isn't trying to say anything as far as I can tell. I mean, it's just and then this happened and then this happened and this happened. So at the end, I was like, why did they make this? Why was this greenlit? Is it just the idea that her case is just going to suck in people to look at it and it doesn't really matter if there's anything new or different or whatever? So I guess I'm a mild thumbs down. I don't understand why this was made, but it's not made badly. I don't get it. The end.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm a mild thumbs up on this. I get what everybody's saying. This wasn't a case that I knew a whole lot about. I mean, obviously all the beats we knew, but I think what's different this time, the attraction here is we hear from Elizabeth Smart herself. Now, she may have spoken in other events, but I do appreciate what she brought to it, not just her candor about what happened in her captivity, but also to kind of explain herself, because the criticism that she got, despite being a victim, was like, well, why didn't you run away?
Ridiculous.
Why didn't you do, you had this opportunity. Why didn't you take it? Is this Stockholm Syndrome? She very well articulated sort of where her mindset was and the idea of self-preservation that led to this or that. So I found that really interesting. And, to hear from the family in different parts too. You're right. I mean, is it sensational? Is it the kind of thing where, people are going to rush to the water cooler and start talking about? No, I guess if you've heard the case and you know a lot about it, maybe you're not going to hear anything new or not hear a lot new, but I still thought it was put together well. So I'm going to be a mild thumbs up.
I am a thumbs up for this because it's well made, and I feel like I understood why it was made, maybe more than the rest of you did. So my perception is that the filmmakers centered this around Elizabeth Smart because that was how they were able to get Elizabeth Smart. I think that there was a decision made early on to be like, let's let her story lead this and not interrogate other things. So, for instance, there was a trial after she came back eventually, and it was difficult for her. At one point, she stormed out of the courtroom, I believe, because a defense expert said, sort of implying her buy-in into being kidnapped, that she had picked out names if she got pregnant for what her baby would be named, and Elizabeth Storm. So this was a difficult period, and I don't think her life was particularly easy after she came back. But I think in deference to her, they decided to only make it framed around the story she could tell. And there is a brief period at the beginning that sort of shows it from the investigative perspective, and you kind of sort of see how things went wrong there. So I sort of took it knowing that the decision was made to do that, and understanding that we are old and most media consumers are young. And they are going to watch pieces of this on TikTok. They're going to be talking about it on TikTok. They're going to be seeing this story. They may have heard the name. They don't listen to public radio. They didn't read Elizabeth Smart's book. It's not part of their true crime lexicon. That this was a complete telling of her story from her perspective. And in this case, because she was such a survivalist in her own story, I think that's deserved. I mean, I don't think it's irresponsible. I don't think it's, they didn't hide the fact that they were centering it around her. But I'm mostly giving it a thumbs up because of the thing that you mentioned, is that it's well-made documentary. It's like beautiful to look at. It's sensitively done. And I think that people who don't know about this story, it may not be made for us, but I think people who don't know about this story will like it. And I didn't hate watching it, so I'm giving it a thumbs up. That's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We have a dog of the week this week, but I also want, before I talk about our Crime Writers on a dog, I have to give a huge shout out because a dog from New Hampshire won at the Westminster Kennel Club for the Masters Agility of all the dogs in the country.
Oh, really?
His dog is called Prove It, and his owner's Amber, and they live in Bedford, and I got to interview her, and I was like, that's amazing! This dog from New Hampshire won the whole thing.
Is that the thing where they run through this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the dog from New Hampshire won the whole thing.
Was the kind of dog that it always is?
It's a border collie.
Always, 100% always a border collie.
Border collie. So that's my shout out to a New Hampshire dog. But our actual dog of the week from a Crime Writers On listener is from longtime listener Leslie Comstock, who sent this hysterical picture to me on my DMs and Instagram of her basset hound with a Modelo beer, nominating Betty Droop for Cat of the Week. This sweet girl loves days on the beach with her family, sneaking sips of a cold brew. She is so ready for winter to be over. Same girl, same, says Leslie.
I love that. Laura, you know what people say about those border collies who do agility? Mm-hmm. They say it's like, if fuck around and find out we're a dog, that's what they would be.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
It's incredible. And that particular dog, it was really interesting, was the only dog in the litter. So it was the only puppy.
Weird.
So this woman bottle fed this puppy from birth. So it imprinted on her in a whole different way. So it's codependent on the lady that's putting it through the course.
Sort of like me and Briscoe.
Yeah.
All right, Laura Bricker.
You like the dog at our feet because we can't record anymore without the dog snoring
lying on top of our feet. Yes.
Like the cat that you saw walking Rocky Flintstone, who's pissed off that I'm not giving him attention, so he keeps stomping on my computer. Yes.
All right, Laura Bricker, folks want to reach out to you online and submit any kind of animal, their animal, an animal in the news, or a cat or a dog or an iguana or anything else to be Cat of the Week. How can they find you there?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram.
What about you, Toby Ball? How can you be found online if folks want to know more about your adventures in Europe?
I'm at TobyBall603 on Instagram and at TobyBallNH on Blue Sky.
What about you, Kevin? How can you be found?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
You can follow me everywhere at Reb Lavoie, and you can please listen to or watch my podcast, Something's Off, on YouTube. You can find the show everywhere at Crime Writers On, but mostly you should join our Facebook group. You should sign up for our newsletter. You should get more engaged with us if you like us, because we have a great community. Get episodes early and ad-free and everything else we make at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our editor is the wonderful Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in the Caitlin Rogers Project Studio, also known as Studio C, the closet on our Hampshire basement, where we also make weird, incoherent, slightly incriminating statements when we are overtired. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. But Elizabeth was still alive, being held in the woods and facing...
Maybe not so happy. No. We're serious.
Okay. But Elizabeth was still alive, being held in the woods and facing daily abuse at the hands of her captors. Now I see why. Yeah. She was still alive! Jesus Christ, Rebecca.
Well,
okay.
If you ask her Uncle Tom.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. Okay, sorry.
Partners in Crime Media.
Hey everybody, Ted Danson here to tell you about my podcast with my longtime friend and sometimes co-host Woody Harrelson. It's called Where Everybody Knows Your Name, and we're back for another season. I'm so excited to be joined this season by friends like John Mulaney, David Spade, Sarah Silverman, Ed Helms, and many more. You don't want to miss it. Listen to Where Everybody Knows Your Name with me, Ted Danson, and Woody Harrelson sometimes, wherever you get your podcasts.
Why have I asked my HVAC guy I found on Angie.com to change my grandpa's trachea tube? Because I was so amazed by how quickly he replaced our air ducts. I knew I could trust him to change Pop-Pop's tube while I was on vacation.
Make it quick, young man.
Aw, see? Pop-Pop trusts you.
I think we should call a doctor.
Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.